Hello, and thanks for stopping by. First opened in 1863 with the inauguration of the then steam-powered Metropolitan Railway, the London Underground is the oldest system of its kind in the world, and since its earliest days, it's inspired artists and writers looking to add drama and atmosphere to their work. This illustration, for example, titled Rescue on the Underground, depicts a scene from the stage drama After Dark, a drama of London life, which was performed at the former Princess's Theatre on Oxford Street in August 1868. This sketch of Baker Street Station, meanwhile, appeared in Gustave Doré's 1872 collection London a Pilgrimage, and the early Underground Railway is also mentioned in George Gissing's 1889 novel The Netherworld, as well as several Sherlock Holmes stories, including the very first, A Study in Scarlet, which was published in 1887. Given how integral the Underground is to London life, it's no surprise then that, once filming technology emerged, directors were keen to incorporate this aspect of the city into their work, and in doing so, they unintentionally created a rich visual record of trains, stations, and passengers as they've appeared through the decades. In this video, we'll be exploring a selection of film scenes dating from the early 20th century to the present day that were shot on the London Underground, and where possible, I'll show you what these locations look like today. Before we set off, I'd just like to give two quick disclaimers. Firstly, this video will be concentrating on movies. The Tube's television appearances are a subject for a whole other video. And secondly, although we'll be whizzing through over 25 films and stations, this list is far from exhaustive, so please do feel free to add any not mentioned here in the comments below. It would appear the earliest surviving footage of the London Underground was made by the Metropolitan Railway, when in 1910, I'm guessing for some promotional purpose, they mounted a camera to the front of a train and filmed their route all the way from Baker Street to Aylesbury, the line back then being even longer than it is today. The company even put banners up for the occasion, clearly marking the name of each station. As you can see here, Baker Street is still pretty recognisable, although back then the platforms were wooden. The camera-carrying train then heads through a tunnel towards Finchley Road, passing what are now three disused stations: St John's Wood Road, later known as Lord's for the nearby cricket ground, Marlborough Road, and the original Swiss Cottage. The earliest depiction of the London Underground in a fictional film can be seen in 1927's Downhill, or as it was known in America, When Boys Leave Home. Downhill had a good pedigree. It was directed by Sir Alfred Hitchcock, then aged just 28, and starred the matinee idol Ivor Novello. In the film, Novello's character, Roddy Berwick, takes the blame for a scandalous pregnancy, resulting in a fierce argument with his upper-class father. Reeling from the confrontation, he storms off and finds himself drawn towards the tube. The station featured in this pioneering scene is the beautiful Maida Vale on the Bakerloo line, which opened in 1915. In Downhill, we get to see Maida Vale's distinctive exterior, followed by a lingering shot of Ivor Novello descending the original wooden escalator, an image Hitchcock uses to symbolise Roddy's descent, both literal and moral. According to a review at the time, this is also believed to be the first ever depiction of an escalator on film. Just think what's followed since then. The details behind this scene are well documented. It was filmed during the early hours of Sunday the 27th of February 1927, Hitchcock and his crew having to wait until the last train departed. And as he came straight to Maida Vale from a night at the theatre, Hitchcock was decked out in a top hat and tails. It was, he'd later say, The most elegant moment in direction I've ever had. Being such a lovely station, it's not surprising that Maida Vale has appeared in a number of other films. One example is 1983's Runners, a Stephen Polyakov drama in which a father is scouring London for his runaway daughter. Like Downhill from many years before, Runners also features a shot of Maida Vale's escalators. Maida Vale can also be briefly spotted in 1999's The End of the Affair, and in 2014's Paddington, in which the station is renamed Westbourne Oak. Although the ticket hall, where the little bear struggles to comprehend the escalator, was filmed at St John's Wood. St John's Wood can also be seen at the start of the 1959 comedy It's Never Too Late, which was quite clearly filmed on a gorgeous summer's day. Returning to the 1920s, another movie from the silent era is the aptly named Underground, which was released in 1928. This was the first fictional film in which the tube is featured extensively, providing the backdrop for a complicated romance in which two men fall for the same woman. Underground begins with a remarkable driver's eye view of the southbound Bakerloo line at Waterloo, followed by a scene of passengers cramming into a train, also filmed at Waterloo. Underground also features shots of Lots Road Power Station, once used to provide the tube with electricity, followed by a chase through some cut and cover tunnels, most likely somewhere on the District line, although if you can pinpoint this exact spot, then please do let me know in the comments. Towards the end of Underground, we also get to see the lifts at Covent Garden, back when they had simple cage doors. Moving forward a few decades, we come now to 7 Days to Noon, also known as Ultimatum, an acclaimed thriller from 1950 in which a fellow named Professor Whittington threatens to detonate a stolen nuclear device in central London. In 7 Days to Noon, we get to see this now closed entrance to Charing Cross tube station, then known as Trafalgar Square, along with a shot of this vintage ticket machine. No contactless payment in those days. There's also a shot of the Bakerloo line's platform and escalator at Charing Cross. As you can see, the station has been significantly remodelled since 1950. Charing Cross has also appeared in many other productions, especially in recent years since the 1999 extension of the Jubilee line made a whole subterranean area here redundant. Although now closed off to the public, the old Jubilee line platforms at Charing Cross are well preserved. TfL maintain them as a useful space for testing new technologies, plus of course, they offer the perfect set for film and TV. Films shot in the disused area of Charing Cross include the horror movies Creep and 28 Weeks Later, along with the 2012 James Bond film Skyfall, in which Daniel Craig's 007 pursues the villain Raoul Silva, played by Javier Bardem, through the station. In Skyfall, you can also briefly spot part of Charing Cross tube station, which is still open to the public, namely this subway near the ticket hall. Despite being made in 1951, one film location, which has changed very little, is this one, Exit 1 at Bank Station, which appears in the Ealing comedy The Lavender Hill Mob. This site appears several times throughout the film, as the story's charmingly corrupt bank clerk, Henry Holland, played by Sir Alec Guinness, commutes here, for he works just across the road at the Bank of England. The most notable scene occurs towards the end of the Lavender Hill Mob, when Henry uses the confusing complex of exits and entrances at Bank Station to give police the slip. If you head down into Bank Station, one of the lines you can catch is the Waterloo and City line, the shortest on the tube, which provides a handy shuttle between the Financial Square Mile and Waterloo Mainline Terminal. As it caters mainly for commuters, the Waterloo and City line has always been closed on Sundays, and Saturdays now too, meaning it's long been a convenient place to film. A good view of the bank end of the line can be seen in a 1962 Norman Wisdom comedy, On the Beat, when Wisdom's character, Norman Pitkin, attempts to make a citizen's arrest on the train, leading him to get trapped in the doors. Don't worry though, I'm pretty sure this bit was filmed in a studio. For many years, the Waterloo and City line was unusual in that it was operated by British Rail rather than the London Underground, and as such, it once had its own very distinctive rolling stock, the Class 487, a good example of which you can now see in the London Transport Museum's Acton depot. A good view of one of these unique trains, back when they were in service, can be seen in the 1965 film The Liquidator. As you can see, they were once painted dark green. In the early 1960s, the bank end of the Waterloo and City line was also notable for installing Britain's first travelator, a moving walkway which offered a welcome alternative to the steep pedestrian passage. You can see the travelator in the 1980 David Essex film Silver Dream Racer, along with a shot of a work gang trundling through Bank Station, although here it's made out to be Bond Street Station. Bank's travelator also makes an appearance in what's perhaps the most famous film to be shot on the Waterloo and City line, 1998's Sliding Doors, in which the two separate fates of Helen Quilly, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, split at a specific moment in time, that split occurring as she attempts to board a train at the Waterloo end. In one timeline, she makes it, in the other, she doesn't, and the two diverging stories stem from there. The bank end of the Waterloo and City line is also seen in Sliding Doors, although according to a tannoy announcement, this is supposedly the District line, and at the very start of the movie, Helen's commute is shown to involve Embankment Station, which is indeed on the District. Another example of the Waterloo and City line being dressed up to resemble another station occurs in the 1968 spy spoof Aldwych, where Bank, in which Leonard Rossiter's assassin character, Johnson, lurks, is made to look like the platform at Notting Hill Gate, although the actual ticket tool at Notting Hill Gate was used in the film too. A far more serious film involving espionage is 1964's Ring of Spies, based on the real-life events of the Portland Spy Ring, a covert group of seemingly ordinary suburbanites who operated from a quiet bungalow in Ruislip. It's a fascinating story, which I explore in more detail on my video on London spy locations. I'll leave a link below in case you haven't seen it. The Metropolitan line plays a prominent role in Ring of Spies, when the actor William Sylvester, playing the real-life figure Gordon Lonsdale, aka Soviet agent Conan Molodai, takes a complex trip on it in order to give anyone following him the slip, a technique spies call dry cleaning. As we see here, Lonsdale begins his journey at Baker Street Station, where he has no problem parking his car, something that would be unthinkable today. He then boards a Metropolitan line train at Baker Street and heads to Northwick Park, where he exits the station to walk to Eastcote, which in reality would take about an hour and a half. Lonsdale's then shown getting off and back on a train at Preston Road, before finally ending up in Ruislip, which is indeed very close to Cranley Drive, where the real-life spy ring operated from. The Metropolitan line trains seen in Ring of Spies were known as the A-Stock, and having been introduced in the early 1960s, they would have been pretty much brand new at the time. The example shown here is held in the London Transport Museum's Acton depot. Another movie in which the interior of an A-Stock features, albeit briefly, is Omen 3, The Final Conflict, which came out in 1981. This scene is of particular interest as it shows the train passing through Wapping, which back in those days was indeed part of the Metropolitan line. It then switched to the now defunct East London line, and since 2010, Wapping's been part of the London Overground network. Sticking with the Omen 3, another part of the Underground featured is Warwick Avenue Station. Just up the line from Warwick Avenue is Kilburn Park, which can be seen in the second Norman Wisdom film on our list, Press for Time, which was released in 1966. At the start of this film, the distinct oxblood tiled exterior of Kilburn Park is, with the help of some editing, made out to be Westminster Station, outside of which Norman Wisdom works as a newspaper vendor. Back in 1966, Westminster Station didn't look too dissimilar to Kilburn Park, although following a complete overhaul in the late 1990s to accommodate the Jubilee Line extension, Westminster has since become almost unrecognisable. In its current modern guise, you can see Westminster's escalators and ticket hall in 2007's Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Returning to the 1960s, the 1964 thriller Seance on a Wet Afternoon features two tube stations located within the heart of London's West End. Those being Leicester Square, where we see an exterior view of the building, and then down below at Piccadilly Circus, a brilliant sequence in which the troubled Billy Savage, played by the late great Sir Richard Attenborough, nervously sneaks around to the bowels of the station as he prepares to collect a ransom drop-off. Seance on a Wet Afternoon also features shots filmed on board moving tube trains, which appear candid, complete with passengers merrily puffing away on cigarettes. Different times, eh? Another station in London's West End is Tottenham Court Road, which stars in what's arguably the most famous movie sequence ever filmed on the tube. That being the scene from 1981's An American Werewolf in London, when late-night commuter Gerald Bringsley, played by Michael Carter, is spooked by an eerie howl on the northbound Northern Line platform. As he makes his way along the escalators and the corridors, Gerald realises, to his horror, that this isn't a prank. Something deadly is chasing him, and as he collapses on the main escalator, the audience is treated to a fleeting glimpse of his assailant, David Kessler in werewolf form. Werewolves aside, one of the most peculiar films to feature the tube is The Bed Sitting Room from 1969, a surreal comedy set in the aftermath of a nuclear war, which was co-written by Spike Milligan. Despite the Holocaust, the tube still appears to be running in some capacity, and according to the destination board, this is supposedly the Circle Line, although as anyone who's familiar with the Underground will tell you, it most certainly isn't. On board this train live a family headed by Arthur Lowe, who raids vending machines for food, and at some point they decide to return to the surface. When they do, they go through here, a now long demolished section of Wood Lane, which even then was derelict, whilst this now lost escalator was at Knightsbridge. The main tube sequences for the Bed Sitting Room though were filmed at Aldwych. Aldwych, originally known as Strand, is, by far, the most prolific station when it comes to scenes filmed on the tube. Opened in 1907 as a short branch of the Piccadilly line from Holborn, Aldwych never realised its full potential, and as such only operated limited hours, before finally closing for good in 1994, factors which have long made it a popular place to film. Many productions have been shot at Aldwych over the years. In 1969's The Battle of Britain, for example, it's featured as an air raid shelter, a role the station played in real life during World War II. A similar blitz scene, filmed at Aldwych, can be seen in a 1990 biopic about the Kray twins. In 2018's delightful biographical film Stan and Ollie, meanwhile, Aldwych was given a 1950s makeover, part of which, interestingly, includes a faded old advertisement bearing the words, "Cures wounds and sores." You won't see that here in real life, the filmmakers added it. Although such a sign does indeed exist in London, you can spot it on Regent Square, near King's Cross. Aldwych also appeared in 2005's dystopian drama V for Vendetta, and in 1987, the very poorly received Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, in which we're encouraged to believe the quaint old Piccadilly line is in fact the Metropolis subway. As with the Waterloo and City line, Aldwych is often done up to stand in for other tube stations. In 1953's Turn the Key Softly, for instance, it's said to be Holloway, whilst in a 1972 horror, Death Line, known more gruesomely in the US as Raw Meat, it stands in for Russell Square, although that movie does include exterior shots of Russell Square Station itself. In terms of Piccadilly line stations which are still in operation, well, there's Jackpot from 1960, in which we see Arsenal Station, and Finsbury Park, which appears in 2 films, both from 1980. The first of these is Breaking Glass, a gritty drama about the dark side of the music industry. Near the film's climax, pop star Kate Crowley, played by Hazel O'Connor, suffers a breakdown whilst performing at the former Rainbow Music venue on Seven Sisters Road. She then flees the theatre and runs across the road towards Finsbury Park Station, and boards a 1938 stock tube car, the much beloved Little Red Trains, which were still in service back then. There's nothing cosy about this tube train though, as once it heads into the tunnel, Kate begins to suffer disturbing hallucinations. A 1938 stock train can also be seen at the very start of Breaking Glass, which Hazel O'Connor proceeds to plaster with band stickers and graffiti. Sacrilege. The second film from 1980 to feature Finsbury Park is Babylon, in which the troubled character known as Blue, played by Aswad's Brinsley Ford, boards a train in a daze after apparently committing a murder. Although Finsbury Park is used in Babylon, much of the action of that film takes place in Brixton. You can see Brixton Station, which opened as part of the Victoria Line in 1971, in both Black Joy from 1977 and Ploughman's Lunch from 1983. As you can see, the exterior of the station has been given a major overhaul since those early days. Today, one of London's most modern and striking stations is Canary Wharf, which was initially created as part of the Jubilee Line extension in the late 90s. Being so photogenic, it's no surprise that Canary Wharf has featured in plenty of films over the years. You can see its entrance canopy in 28 Weeks Later, for example, whilst the impressive escalators appear in 2003's Love Actually. Most unusual of all though, and arguably the most bizarre use of a tube station in the history of filming on the London Underground, came in 2016, when, for the Star Wars film Rogue One, Canary Wharf Station played the role of an evil Imperial base, located somewhere a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look at the London Underground's many film appearances, and as always, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. Out of these films, which is your favourite? What other examples of the tube on film can you think of? And if you could pick any station to use as a movie set, which would it be? Please be sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed to Robslondon, then I'd appreciate it very much if you could please consider doing so, as this, along with clicking the bell icon to receive notifications, would ensure that you don't miss out whenever I publish a new video. Plus of course, it'd be wonderful to have you along. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also support my work with a tip via either my Ko-fi account, which I'll link below, or the YouTube thanks button, which appears as a heart icon beneath the video. Any such financial donations are of course greatly appreciated, and they really do help go towards creating content. Anyway, on that note, thanks again for watching friends. Stay well, and please be sure to stay tuned.